According to Google CEO Sundar Pichai, 25%, roughly a quarter of all new code written at Google is generated by AI. This is crazy on so many levels. And this comes at a time when Google is laying off people and not giving pay raises to engineers. But they're definitely not replacing programmers with AI chatbots. Wink, wink. Holy heavens. You remember when all the AI code generation stuff was kicking off and people started having debates about whether or not this is going to replace programmers? And a lot of people were like, come on, this won't replace programmers. These AI chatbots aren't any good at it. And we went back and forth and we argued about it and we argued about their motivations. And then we all sat back and watched what happened. And over the year to 2 years in that time, the code generation of the AI systems has improved dramatically. And lo and behold, Google is literally replacing programmers with AI. I'm just going to read a little bit to you from read one sentence to you from the Q3 earnings call of Google. From the CEO himself, the CEO's remarks. This just was 2 days ago, October 29th. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit here because I have the amazing quote highlighted. Quote, today, more than a quarter of all new code at Google is generated by AI. End quote. Yeah. Okay, First of all, he then goes on to say that it is then reviewed and accepted by engineers. Yeah. That's like saying, "Oh, my new novel is was generated by AI, but the writer reviewed it, so it's practically as good, and it's definitely written by a person because a writer reviewed it. Oh, this new song was generated by AI, but then a musician reviewed it, and yep, it's good. So now that musician wrote that song. No, that's not how it works. If a human didn't write the code, it's AI generated code. It doesn't matter if a human reviewed it or not. It's still generated by machine code. And I've been in code reviews. Most programmers in a code review are sitting there with their eyes glazed over. They're just, they don't want to be there doing a code review. They don't fully understand the code that someone else wrote because someone else wrote it. Hell, half the time people don't understand the code that they wrote. If you wrote code 5 years ago and come back to it, you're like, who the heck wrote this? I wrote this? You telling me I wrote this? I don't remember writing this code. I have no idea what variable name inc their funk does. What is inc their funk? You write a variable name like inc their funk and you expect it to remember 5 years later what the heck that variable is counting in some sort of, you don't know. If someone else writes the code and you're supposed to review it, half the time code reviews are about, well, I would have used different indenting styles, or I would have factored things out a little bit into different functions, or something like that. Something just completely and utterly pointless. Oh, you need more comments in your code, okay? Or I don't like using I for for loops. That's what 90% of comments of code reviews are like. If a programmer is being blurted out AI generated code and they're expected to review it, no. They don't know half of what it does because they didn't write it. That's how it works, man. Especially if it's more than just, I don't know, a little bit of template code for like an HTML button or something like that. They're not gonna 100% understand every little nuance of it. So in essence, this is just AI generated code. So a quarter, 25% of all the code coming out of Google now is being created by an AI machine, which brings in multiple problems. First is the code quality. Obviously, Google's code quality is going downhill. I think many of us have seen that. We've seen issues relating to Google's code quality across the board. It's been getting worse and worse. The stability, the bloat, the just general lagginess of their systems, it's getting worse and worse. And on top of all that, now they've got programmers who, when they do need to get in there and fix the bugs, they're not going to know their butt from their elbow because it's all AI generated. It's all AI generated. It's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. It's not a sustainable model going forward. And a second, we already mentioned this, but they're literally replacing engineers with AI. That's what they're doing, because reviewing some code, that's not the job of a programmer. No programmer wants to do that job. That's a crap job. So no programmer wants to do it, to start with. Second, no programmer is going to be good at it because it sucks, because no one wants to do it, because reading someone else's code for a living is just terrible, especially when you can't ask that person a real question about their code. Like, Frank, when you create this variable called inc_their_func, what does that store? You can't go ask him that, because what you've got is an AI chatbot who's probably going to give you a fake answer, because if you've been using any of these AI systems, including those generated by Google, at least a certain portion of the time, it just makes crap up. So you're not going to have any reliable way to ask questions about the code that it just generated. It's a garbage idea. Garbage in, garbage out. And yeah, those engineers at Google, here, I'm going to bring this up here. This is from CNBC back in May of this year. Google lays off hundreds of core employees, which included engineering talent, as they say, moves some positions to India and Mexico. Okay, so they're doing layoffs. Oh, what is this? Google, this is from the New York Post, but this was from all over the place. Google workers complain of decline in morale as CEO Sundar Pichai grilled over raises and layoffs and increased distrust. Yeah, so people at Google are like, wait a minute, why aren't we getting raises? Why is the frequency and amount of raises, why is it decreasing so rapidly? And why are you laying off all the people around me? And why are you making these AI systems that are now doing 25% of all the programming inside of Google? And it gets worse. It gets worse. I am energized, he goes on to say, by our progress and the opportunities ahead. Progress and opportunities means they have not yet accomplished the goal. So the goal of 25% of all code inside Google being created by an AI bot is not yet accomplishing the goal. That means their goal is a lot higher than that. What is the goal? 50%? 100%? What is the goal here? I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going to say it's 100%. I'm going to go on a limb and I'm going to say flat out the goal is to make it so that the only people left are people who do reviews of AI generated code, reviews, and push a publish button. That's the goal, because you can pay those people less and have a whole lot less of them hired, so you can continue to give the CEOs massive pay increases and lay off everybody else. I'm going to say that that's the goal. That's a business move, right? If you're the CEO and you're like, if I laid off all my programmers, I could give myself a $500 million a year raise. I know what we're doing next year, right? I mean, come on. We're seeing the same sort of thing happen throughout the journalism side of things, too. So in tech journalism, over half of all of the articles that you read about tech news are AI generated. Just flat out. Guaranteed, most of the big tech news sites that cover computer industry news, over half of their articles are generated by an AI article writing bot system. They have a couple of different ones out there that people use. And what happens is they lay off the more expensive, experienced writers, right? The people with, 20, 30 years of experience in engineering and covering the tech industry. They lay those people off because they're more expensive. And they hire junior editors, right? So people just out of school, they hire them at pennies on the dollar to come in and review what the AI created. Same thing that they're doing here at Google, right? So they come in and say, okay, your job is to feed this press release from, Hewlett Packard into this AI article generator system and give it a few keywords and tell it to make this sort of spin on the article. Then take it out, take its results, paste it into the thing, make sure it looks good, format it a little bit. If there's any grammatical errors, fix it and review it. So you are then responsible for the content. Put your name on it or put staff writer on it and boom, publish it. That's what we've got in the tech journalism world, and now that's what we're getting in the programming world coming out of Google too. That's not theory. That is actually what's happening now. That's not conspiracy tinfoil hat. Oh my gosh, this might happen someday. Skynet is coming and we're all going to die because Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up. No, that is literally what's happening right now. Is a quarter, 25%, 1 in 4 of the code that's written by Google is AI generated. And you're telling me Google's not going to lay off more programmers? Guaranteed. More programmer layoffs are coming. Guaranteed. The third quarter earnings report just happened. Let's see. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Q1 layoffs. Yep. January, February, thereabouts, March. In there, we're going to see massive layoffs from Google in their engineering space. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I would put it at 99% likelihood we're going to see massive layoffs in programming and engineering at Google in the first quarter of this next year. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. That's what's going to happen. I just wanted to put that all out there because so many people were like, "Oh, they're not going to make AI systems replace programmers. They can't do it." Well, it doesn't matter how well it works. If they feel like their shareholders will be happy because in the short term they cut costs by eliminating headcount, they're going to do it. If there's some way they can say, in the future, like let's say 5 years down the line, they cut all the programmers and it doesn't work out and they have to rehire all the programmers back. They can say, the hope that we had for AI, that just didn't pan out as expected. They know it's going to be garbage. They know it's going to whip out garbage code and they know that it's going to make them a butt ton of money in the short term. They're not really worried about the long term. That's what's happening right now. Thank you to all the Lunduke Journal subscribers for supporting this this boutique artisanal human crafted content that you get here at the Lunduke Journal, where we don't make anything through artificial intelligence. Not a darn thing. I mean, no, we're one of the few. So with that, thank you. Go to lunduke.com if you want to click on things. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.